The GLK and its successor, the GLC, have proven to be hugely successful for Mercedes. So for 2020, the car is getting a pretty good refresh, with a new engine, new technology, and a better ride. Be it coupe or SUV, on-road or off-road, AMG or standard, this is a pretty big upgrade. The GLC competes in a hotly contested segment that includes the X3, the Audi Q5, and the Volvo XC60, and the GLC has always been able to hold its own up against those rivals. In the past, I would say that the GLC was a little bit boring to drive, and this upgraded model doesn't seem to change much of that at all. Although in some markets, you do get a vehicle that is equipped with a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which allows you to get an air suspension setup, and that really improves on the GLC's strength, which is comfortable riding. And that air suspension system, if you do get a vehicle with it, allows you to get some pretty cool off-road ability with this car. Having taken the GLC off-road here in Frankfurt, Germany, it's clear that this will definitely exceed the customer's expectations. Most buyers are looking for a family-friendly car, but I guess Mercedes is targeting the Land Rover faithful here. The GLC has impressive numbers with its air suspension. It has a 30.8 degree approach, 24.9 departure, and 19.8 degree breakover angles. Furthermore, it can forward up to 300 millimeters or just under 12 inches, and the GLC has an overall ground clearance of 245 millimeters or 9.6 inches. Thanks to the off-road and off-road plus settings, this thing is like a mini little G-Class off-road, even if that means it looks a little bit softer and more approachable than that iconic SUV. Now, even if you don't get a vehicle with a 48-volt mild hybrid system, the suspension in this car is pretty good. It's always going to be an adjustable adaptive suspension system. And I would say that this car rides very well. On the other hand, if you get one of the AMG models, which is what I'm driving right now, the car has a wider range of suspension settings, and in that Sport Plus mode, it gets very stiff. And in general, the ride and suspension of this vehicle is pretty comfortable. The steering is pretty adaptive, so at high speeds it feels pretty heavy and confident, and at low speeds it feels a little too light for my likings. On the other hand, the average luxury car buyer will probably fall in love with this kind of steering system because it feels a little isolated. Under the hood is a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that makes 255 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. It's paired to a 9-speed automatic, and in the US you can get a rear-wheel drive model, and in Canada you get an all-wheel drive model. The US also gets that 4MATIC system as an optional upgrade as well. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this 9-speed automatic, which can feel really jerky, sometimes on a hill, and I really wasn't expecting that when it comes to a Mercedes transmission, which are usually pretty bulletproof. Now, getting this car up to highway speeds takes about 6 seconds. And if you wanted something with a little bit more pep, you can of course get the AMG model, the GLC 63. Now that model uses a turbocharged V8 that makes 503 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. Paired to this 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system, it'll hit highway speeds in under 4 seconds, which is bonkers. This car is so silly, and it's one of the few vehicles that can compare to the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quattrofoglio or the BMW X3M, which is coming out real soon. I don't know exactly how this thing compares to those two cars when it comes to how sporty it is, but I will tell you, no matter what, when you arrive in the GLC 63 AMG, you will arrive with a goofy smile on your face. Now, it has that 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system that can send full torque to either the front or rear axles, and it has a locking differential, which helps you ensure that you get maximum traction. This is a track-oriented SUV, which sounds like a dumb idea, but in the end, Mercedes has a lot to brag about. This thing has managed a Nürburgring lap time of 7 minutes and 49 seconds, which is really impressive. Now, the automaker is also saying that a plug-in hybrid version of this car is on the way for those sort of people who really prefer fuel economy over horsepower, and I can't fault them for that. This car is also offered with the usual suite of safety systems and driver assistance features. I wish there was something new to talk about in this regard, but it's more or less the same old stuff. I really like Mercedes' adaptive cruise control. It really works well in traffic, which is helpful in those really boring commutes, but I do think that the blind spot monitoring system and the lane keep assist is a little aggressive. The interior of the GLC has been updated as well, and I really like this classy, if conservative design, especially because there's such a limited amount of buttons. The infotainment system has also been brought down so it doesn't look like an iPad stuck to the dash. It uses MBUX, which is Mercedes' new infotainment system, and that means that they've thrown out that control knob with trackpad for this more simpler setup, which is just a regular trackpad. Now the cool thing about MBUX is that it features a digital assistant, just like Google or Amazon Alexa or even Siri. Now that will help you with infotainment systems like navigation, HVAC controls, but can also pull up things like Yelp reviews, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of technology in this car, including a digital gauge cluster, which is very customizable, but you also get these two trackpads on the steering wheel, which is a little bit of a headache to use. Finally, there's a lot of space in this car, making it the perfect family-friendly SUV as well as grocery getter. This refresh wasn't exactly necessary, but it's very helpful. Buyers will love the MBUX infotainment system and that augmented reality navigation system. And the rest of the upgrades ensure that the GLC stays competitive in this segment. Buyers can expect this car to cost around $40,000 when it hits dealerships later this year.